Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So as you can tell based on the title, while Lucie and Luke Meier are stepping down from Jill Sander. This from Vogue. Jill Sander has split with Lucie and Luke Meier after 7 years. The Milan-based house announced the end of the couple's tenure as co-creative directors in a statement on February 26th, just after their final show for autumn-winter 2025. In the statement, OTB Group Chairman Renzo Rosso thanked the Meiers for their, quote, vision, passion for excellence, and dedication to the brand. Jill Sander was acquired by Renzo Rosso's OTB Group, home also to Diesel, Maison Martin Margiela, Marni, and Victor and Rolf in April 2021. So yeah, 7 years is quite a lengthy time. They did have a good run. They were really able to, I think, explore the brand, and they had some really amazing collections. The collections that I remember the most, I really loved the fall 2020 collection. Something about this was very poetic with something about the chair setup, and I also just loved the handbags from that collection. They were so good. There were these versions of the goji bag that were like more in that pillowy goji clutch style. I know they have released recent versions, but there's something about, I think, this specific period from 2020 to 2021, the collections from this era that spoke to me the most. Also the ready-to-wear was just sublime. To me, it felt like they were both honoring the legacy of Jill Sander, but it felt quite contemporary. It felt like an evolution. Another collection I really loved was the Spring Summer 2020 collection. The ready-to-wear also just had really beautiful movement. Sometimes in certain collections we also saw more so like crafty elements, which I think added this softness to the minimalist aesthetic that we know Jill Sander for, which is sometimes I think more on the austere side. And then another collection I also loved was Spring Summer 2021. Loved the beautiful delicate pleats, petals, and floral moments. Like, it just felt like there was a little bit more emotion and a little bit more depth. It's not the kind of minimalism when I think about like the 90s where the fashion looked like it was very removed, and whereas I feel like there was something very much like in this world. This felt different. It felt very grounded, and you could feel the organic touches in their work as well. This being my channel, of course, we're going to be talking about the handbags. Now, in terms of what were noteworthy styles, one popular line was the goji line. I don't want to say it's like popular. It's not like everyone had a goji bag, but it was definitely like a mainstay and a style that they had evolved over the years. It's known for that signature goji berry kiss lock closure. But yeah, we saw different versions of this style, versions with different top handles, bamboo top handles. They did versions with the bamboo that were like metallic. It also came in a variety of colors. I had to get the fluffy shearling version. Kind of ridiculous to some, but it just spoke to me, so I had to get it. Another style that they have that they've been promoting for the past few years was the canolo. I think this came around 2022. It has more of that like canolo pastry kind of shape, more east-west in proportion. It came in multiple sizes, colors, some with embellished crystals. Another style that they had was the sphere. This was more of like a rounded sort of slouchy organic shape, but then it had that very defined round spherical shape. It added like an interesting like visual weight to the style. Another style that they had was the roll-up. So this was a re-edition of an OG style, like Jill Sander's, one of her earlier styles. This is another bag I have heavily considered. I had always wanted a vintage one, but I feel like if the leather on this is really nice, I might consider a recent version. It kind of has that rolled up lunch bag shape. It's a little bit more relaxed. During the Raf Simons era, we also saw this bag be brought back as well. But another recent style I want to mention is the jewel zip clutch. I love that sculptural metal hardware detail, and I really loved how Jill Sander would use these organic shaped hardware bits like here or in the goji, or even just like the metallic bamboo handles, or even the sphere, which is more of a perfect spherical shape. I think it was a little bit more representative of Lucie and Luke Meier's approach to the brand, to bring something a little bit more organic or sculptural to, I think, the very clean minimalist lines that we typically associate with Jill Sander. They had a lot of really great designs. I recently talked about the curved shoulder bag in a recent video, just the curve line in general. There's also the tangle, the knot line, the Eldorado, the ghost line, the vertigo, the woven, the moon, the empire, the cushion. They had a lot of handbags. Also, there were some styles again from that period, like just pre-OTB takeover, when it came to handbags that were also really beautiful as well. But just continuing on with this Vogue article, a successor at Jil Sander was not named. In the most recent figures available, Sander reported a 17.3% year-on-year sales increase in 2023. OTB Group did not break out sales figures for the brand in 2024. Group sales declined 3.1% for the year. So while we talked about the bags, which many were great, I do think overall 2024, it seemed like a difficult year for a lot of brands. There was a luxury slump, a lot of foolproof brands. The major luxury brands at LVMH and Kering also saw a decline. 2023, as mentioned, I'm not surprised by the rise when we saw, I think, more people take interest in the Goji bag and the Goji line, even though it had been out for a couple years. Also, those bold text t-shirts that said Jil Sander, that shirt, I think just towards the end of the pandemic, I remember seeing that all the time. And then the Canolo bag has been probably the style that they've been promoting more so recently. I also thought they had some great shoes. I always thought their shoes also had really cool hardware accents and details. But while we don't know the specific numbers for Jil Sander in 2024, the group overall was down. I do think in 2024, the brands that did the best were usually brands that were in, the minimal or the quiet luxury lanes, be it the Row, Loro Piana, Brunello, Bottega. I think a lot of those brands were able to ride that quiet luxury wave. We also saw the return of Phoebe Philo. Also, smaller or just emerging brands like Totem, Kate, and La Mer also rose to prominence. I think in 2024, while we don't know the numbers, I can imagine there was just a lot more competition. When I just think about some of these brands like Totem or La Mer specifically, the prices of their bags are a lot more approachable than, not all, of course, but their most popular styles. Like La Mer's the Croissant, Totem's the T-Lock. They're a lot more approachable in price than, say, the Goji. I think in 2024 and I think in 2025, it's quite a competitive field. While 7 years ago when they came to the brand, there weren't so many brands that had risen to prominence. Phoebe Philo had left Celine. The Row was nowhere near as popular as it is now. Kate, Totem, La Mer weren't really as known. So I think during their tenure, Jil Sander was a go-to brand. If you wanted luxury minimalism, Jil Sander was one of the go-to brands. And so they were able to do probably quite well. But because I think there's so many brands that have risen to prominence now, which on one side as a customer I appreciate because there's a lot of choice. I don't want just there to only be one minimalist brand, but I can see how from on this business side, even just the legacy luxury brands that even tried to dabble into quiet luxury, it was just a lot of brands competing for this market with so much competition and even more competitive pricing. I can see why maybe Jil Sander wasn't the top of every minimalist customer's list when it came to you buying ready-to-wear or handbags. Of course, Lucie and Luke Meier, they had a really good run, I think, and they were able to stay with the brand even with the OTB takeover, which isn't always the case. For me, as someone that I think appreciates the brand, I did get the Goji bag. The only other item I purchased were a pair of pants a few years ago that had this flare, but those were the only two items I purchased, and I would have liked to consider more from the brand. I think Lucie and Luke Meier, they really did build it up. I think while Jil Sander is known for that very austere look, I think they did bring in a lot more warmth and fluidity. We also saw more artisanal touches. I think it was an evolution of Jil Sander's minimalism that felt very in line with the times. Nothing has been stated about their plans next. Who knows, maybe they just take it easy, maybe they start their own thing, but there were bags that I really loved, there were collections I really loved, and I did really enjoy what they did. Now, in terms of who is going to be the next creative director, nothing has been confirmed. Now, one name that I've seen mentioned quite heavily is Daniel Lee. Now, he's still at Burberry. He could very well stay at Burberry, but there's a lot of speculation that maybe his time at Burberry is coming to a close. But I could see him at Jil Sander. To me, that could make sense. I would actually love that. I'm not gonna lie. Daniel Lee, to me, he brings this sculptural touch. I think a lot of his fashion, be it from his ready-to-wear to his handbags, they're very much about form. The sculptural aspect and the form aspect, also the color aspect, is what I think of Daniel Lee is known for. But another name that people are also mentioning is Simone Bellotti. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I'm so sorry. You can correct me in the comments, but he is leaving Bali. And his Bali has been interesting in that it's been a little bit more experimental with like sculptural, sartorial shapes. I really like the use of the peplums, interesting textures, stud encrusted hardware details, but I think his style like could also work at a brand like Jill Sander. Like it could really work in like a minimalist setting and kind of bring a more contemporary edge to the brand. So anyways, guys, that's my video for today. Would love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.